Welcome to Movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take good care. Monk Comes Down the Mountain is the name of the movie. Please like and subscribe for every update. In a secluded Taoist temple, Ania has been raised and trained since he was abandoned as a baby. One day, his master asks him to fight every other monk in the temple in order to decide who will leave, since they can't feed everyone anymore. Ania defeats all his fellow monks with ease, but to his surprise, winning equals leaving because it means he's finally strong enough not to need training anymore. Besides, his master thinks it's time for Ania to see what the real world is like. When Ania finally makes it to the city, he's overwhelmed by it and quickly gets in trouble because he doesn't know how to cross the street. He uses his martial arts skills to avoid cars and eventually makes a bit of a show-off, earning him the admiration of the crowd. One of them even tossed him a coin, but it wasn't enough to buy food, and by night Ania was starving. When he sees Dr. Sui leaves the restaurant with a package of food, but Ania decides to steal it and Sui chases him around town on his bicycle. Eventually, they reach a river, where Ania jumps just in time, but Sui falls into the water. Ania didn't hesitate to help him, and Sui gave him food as a thank you. He also finds Ania to be amusing and a pure soul, so he decides to take him back to his pharmacy to make him his apprentice. The doctor lives with his wife Mrs. Sui, who doesn't pay much attention to her husband and prefers to hang out with her brother-in-law. At least he doesn't complain about Ania's presence and also loves it when Ania entertains the couple with his antics during meals. Dr. Sui sells medicine in his pharmacy but also sees patients, and Ania learns how to help him with both. His martial arts skills come in handy when it comes to distracting people in pain, especially crying kids. At the end of each day, Dr. Sui pays Ania for his help, but half of his earnings go into buying love tonic from his brother Daorong, whose business isn't doing very well. One afternoon, Sui learns that Daorong has sold the shop for the value of a precious ring, which makes Sui furious because both their shops had been a family inheritance. Daorong doesn't care though, and he reminds Sui that he gave up monkhood for a woman, so he can't exactly talk. Dr. Sui leaves the shop in a huff, thus Ania goes after him to ask for an explanation. It turned out to be Dr. Sui was a monk in the same temple as Ania, and one day, seeing her incredibly beautiful woman praying, he decided to follow her in order to get her noticed. Eventually, the woman became Mrs. Sui, and the monk gave up everything to become a doctor and devoted himself to caring for Mrs. Sui. The only reason Sui regularly buys tonic of love is to help his brother with his debts, but Daolong clearly doesn't mind the hard labor. Later that night, Ania hears strange noises and he climbs the ladder to peek into Sui's room and finds her couple left in bed. At the end of the examination, the doctor told his wife how worried he was about her brother's future, but he again refused to give him a single coin. He also assured Mr. Sui that he didn't have to worry about money because he had a lot of savings hidden in the back wall of his closet. The next day, Ania goes to buy more love tonics for Sui, but when he reaches the store, he hears sounds suggesting that Mr. Sui is having an affair with the doctor and his brother. Although he did not tell his doctor about it, he later confronted Mr. Sui, who simply told him not to get involved in his work. After some time, Mr. Daolong cries to Mr. Sui about his debt and his feelings about ending things, and Mr. Sui convinces him to cooperate. Daolong also gives her a powerful love tonic for her doctor. When he returned to her home, Mrs. Sui tries to steal savings from the wall, but is caught by the doctor. Mr. Sui believes that Ania has already told him everything, and he explains the situation with Daolong, but also vows that it is over and he will never see him again. Sometime later, in the middle of the night, Ania heard a scream. That's Mr. Sui. While her doctor tried to cheer her up, her doctor left her to die. While saying goodbye to her husband, Ania remembers the doctor's promise that he would never go hungry and accepts the responsibility of taking over the store. This allows him to find an empty tonic box, which makes him suspicious. After the doctor left, Mr. Daolong shamelessly went to pick up Mr. Sui himself. Ania warns her that he should respect the traditional 7 days of mourning, but they ignore her. Mr. Daolong and his wife, Sui, gets on the boat, and Mrs. Sui also finds it strange that Daolong is not sad. He then realizes that Daorong has poisoned the tonic, causing an argument, rocking the boat, and causing a leak. He is trapped and unable to escape, and just as he is about to drown, Ania appears and saves her. However, Ania is still angry at what they did to the doctor, and he only hesitates for a second before he misses the boat. Ania, overwhelmed with guilt, rushes to the temple to atone for his sins, but is discovered by the Luzon chief priest, who kneels before the Buddha and punishes her for murder. Following Buddhist tradition, Ania spends 7 days on his knees repenting until he passes out, still unsure if what he did was right or wrong. When Ania returns to the shop, he meets Zhao, who manages to get inside even though there was a lock on the door. He's a martial arts student that can use a special technique capable of destroying things through walls, and he's come to the shop to buy some medicine for his master, who he'll be fighting later. Ania is very impressed by this mighty technique, and after doing the sale, he follows Zhao in secret to watch him fight his master Peng. Both men are very skilled, and Zhao manages to stay calm even when Peng taunts him, but in the end, Peng beats up his student anyway. Zhao refuses to give up and uses the special technique to land the final hit with props he finds in the area, but this also forces him to admit he's been practicing his master's technique behind his back. Peng doesn't mind and admits Zhao is more more skilled than his own son, so he'll be the one to inherit the leadership of his school. A happy Zhao starts making his way out, but he suddenly falls to the floor because Peng's waited for the right moment to betray him and kill him with his umbrella to get revenge for his stolen technique and keep his son as his heir. The next day, Peng's son Cheesy shows up at Anxia's shop to get some medicine for his father. He also has some meat that he'd love to cook properly, and Anxia accepts to share his kitchen in exchange for sharing the lunch. When the stew is ready, Cheesy only lets Anxia eat after he shares all the details about the fight. Things get weird when they realize the meat has a special poison that makes them hallucinate and their faces swell, and after Anxia sees the ghost of Mrs. Sui, he decides they should get drunk to forget. Since they don't have money, Anxia and Cheesy go to a temple to steal the donation box. Shiyu is the monk protecting the box and quickly gives them a lesson by beating them in a battle that ends with their heads against the ground. Cheesy runs away in fear, but Anxia stays to apologize and asks Shiyu to be his master, but Shiyu rejects him. The next morning, Cheesy tells Peng what happened. Peng soon realizes that it must be the same Shiyu he trained with in his youth who stole the technique from him. Their conversation is interrupted when Antia delivers an order for medicine, and after quickly kicking him out, Pheasant explains to his father that Antia told his father about the temple. Peng now believes that Antia and Siyu are working together. Meanwhile, Antia packs his things, bids farewell to the doctor at the altar, and returns to the temple to beg Siyu to train him again. Axia begins to prove himself useful by cleaning the area, but Shiyu takes the broom from him and shows him a special cleaning technique before giving it back. Just explaining how to clean requires concentration and practice. After some time, a girl approaches Antia and tells him that his destiny foretells that he will meet the savior in the temple. His greatest wish is to have a child, and Antia promises to help him find a way to do so. In the evening, Antia goes to ask Rusong for advice, and the two meet in his head with their eyes closed. Luzon tells Antia about a secret room in the temple where men take women and impregnate them, which he had locked away for his protection some time ago. Anxia isn't sure why Rusong finds this amusing, but when he opens his eyes, he finds the key to the room. Afterward, Anxia takes the girl to the room and finally realizes there's a space for them to get frisky. They have a wonderful night together, but the girl won't tell him his name because they can't see each other again. Later, after sharing this experience with Shiyu, Anxia asks him for his story in return. Shiyu explains that when his old master died, he passed his ape strike technique to him and made him the heir of the school because his son Peng wasn't good enough. Mr. Peng became angry and fought with Shiyu until he ran away from the school. These days, Shiyu is waiting for the right time to return something to its rightful owner. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted by Pan, who has come to ask about his father's secret book. Shiyu explained that there had never been such a manual, but he would write everything he knew in a notebook and eventually give it to Peng so they could reconcile their differences. Pen grabs the manual and throws it into the kitchen fire, and Anthea runs to get it, but Pen quickly jumps in and punches him away. Shiyu does not want violence to occur, and he apologizes to Peng for running away all those years ago. Now he realizes he should have stayed here to learn together. He also wants to bow respectfully, but Pen is still angry and starts a fight. His kung fu techniques destroy many parts of the temple, and Shiyu has to push Anxia out of the way multiple times to stop Peng's attacks. Seeing Shiyu move quickly to take the students outside, Peng gave up the fight and left the temple, but as soon as the door closed, he realized that he was only pretending to be revealed and grabbed his special technique through the wall. The statue explodes and small pieces chase Shiyu. Shiyu grabs a broom and uses its power to create a tornado of leaves that acts as a shield. Peng thought he had won and returned home to investigate, so Shio pounced on him and resumed the fight. When Pen tries to use his special move again, she notices that the full moon is shining and uses its energy to control the water in the well and push back the enemy. However, Pen's attack is not completely repulsed. Instead, the beam splits in two and hits both men at the same time. Pen takes the opportunity to escape, but he passes out as soon as he gets home. Cheesy hurriedly searched for medicine in the drawer and found a gun next to it. Now caring for his father, he is haunted by memories of his gun. Meanwhile, Anthea finally convinces Siyu to teach him the technique, but for now, they start with the theory behind the forces of nature. In her gratitude, Anthea reveals that he saved her notebook from the fire and returns it to Siyu. Later, as Anthea was lying in bed, he heard several gunshots echoing in the temple and ran outside, only to find that Shio had been shot. Dying, Shiyu wants to meet someone named Chao one last time and give him the note, but Anxia does not know who it is and takes Shiyu to see Rusong instead. The monk teaches Shiyu that this is the result of karma. Shiyu finally understands how that cycle has come full circle, sees his friend Cha in his heart, and the soul leaves in peace. Meanwhile, Peng wakes up to discover it was his son that shot Shiyu. A few days later, Anxia goes to the city because he's learned Cha has become a performer at the local theater. After the show is over, Anxia tells Cha what happened, but even when Cha visits the temple and sees the bloodstained clothes, he refuses to believe it, especially since Shiyu never took students before. Anxia shares more details to prove his story, and in return, Cha explains he had met Shiyu before they joined the kung fu school. The two of them had been in the army together, and back then Cha had been just a performer going through withdrawal. When the first battle began, he ran away in fear, but Xiu followed him and helped him stay sane during the war. Cha wants to avenge his friend's death, and Anthea tells him that it was probably Pen who killed him. Cha needs to finish one more show, but he shows up on stage only to cancel the show. This infuriated Police Commissioner Liren, who had paid extra money to buy a good seat for his girlfriend, and decided to send his men to avenge this humiliation. It was incredibly easy for Cha to take down a large group of policemen, and when Liren tried to shoot him, Cha moved fast enough to avoid the bullets and defeat him. The next day, Liren contacts Pen to take revenge together. Liren pretends to arrest Peng and calls Cha, telling him that the person who killed Shiyu has been caught and that Cha should come tomorrow when he will be transferred to the prison. Cha accepts this, and Pen and Liren have their men prepare to set a trap. At night, Cha and Anthea perform a special ceremony to bless Cha's spear and Shiyu's bloody shirt. Cha said that after the two had trained in nature for years, Shiyu told Cha that it was time for him to leave the cave and return to the stage, because life should be a balance between nature and pleasure. Cha explained that he intends to live through these words. The next day, Liren and Kizzy remain in the car with Pen as their men continue to ambush them, but Cha and Anthea easily work together and defeat them all within seconds. Cha then approaches the car and challenges Peng to a one-on-one duel. The duel begins with the two men fighting each other in her mind space. Although their abilities are quite similar, Pen tricks one of his men into attacking Cha with his eyes closed, injuring his arm. This is not enough to stop Shiyu, and Shiyu jumps very high and uses the sunlight for a special attack with his spear, severely injuring Peng and pinning him against a tree. Cha asks if he really killed Peng, and Peng replies that he did it to protect his son. Suddenly, Cheesy appeared with a gun and confessed that it was him, so Ania hit him several times, took the gun away, and thought of shooting him. Cheesy points out that Shiyu saw him but never said his name, proving that he wanted to end this cycle of revenge. These words prompt Peng to pick up Cha's spear and offer his life in exchange for his son's, so that things can end and a new generation can start over without hating the past. That's when Liren shoots Cha in the leg before fleeing in his car, causing Anthea and Kiji to chase him. Anthea is unable to stop the car with a jump, but when Liren takes a wrong turn, he spots Cha with a spear and uses it to send the car flying into the water, causing it to explode. Ania then returns to the mountains with Shiyu and completes his training there, as he has finally experienced both good and evil in his life. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.